Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good afternoon on this beautiful Thursday here in the Washington, D.C. area. And we welcome you to another reading from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. We come to you each Thursday at 4 o'clock with a chapter reading. And today's chapter reading, last week, we read chapter, let's see. What did I do with my, I know what it is. Last week, we read chapter 111 entitled World Leaders. And today we're going to continue on with chapter 112 entitled Like Lazarus. Last week, the message entitled World Leaders was about the struggle that people go through in all different professions of life, trying to or struggle with the spirit, because we live in this materially laden earth. So understanding that you're a spiritual bodied person first and a physical bodied person second is difficult. Thank goodness for Spiritism, because it lays it out very well for us. And today's message, 112, we will read. We'll first read the New Testament passage that Emmanuel bases his message on. And of course, Emmanuel is the author, the spirit author, and through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. Then after we read the message, we will comment on it, give you a couple of references, some really, really good references in this particular one. And then we will say a prayer and then sign off. So let's get started with chapter 112, Like Lazarus. John recorded in chapter 11, verse 44, something that Jesus said, which was, "And the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped in strips, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, 'Unbind him and let him go.'" The return of Lazarus to the active life is a profound symbol for all who toil on earth. Repentant wrongdoers, sinners who return to the good, and those who tinkle the crystals of conscience understand the marvelous meaning of the phrased verb to start over. Lazarus could not have been happy only because he was clothed again in the perishable flesh, but because he was being given the chance to start the human experience once again with new values. On the path of evolution, every time a spirit receives from the Divine Master the opportunity to return to earth, it is undoing strong bonds, relieving itself from anguish and regret and fear. The sensation Lazarus felt in the tomb was like a tight cloth wrapped around his face. Jesus, full of mercy, exclaimed to the world, "Unbind him and let him go." This gospel passage is marked with profound beauty. People's lives are invaluable because Christ allows them to unbind themselves from their criminal links with the past, allowing them to return once again to the fountains of human life in order to rebuild and sanctify the ties of their spiritual destinies by means of the supreme gift of starting all over again. Okay, that finishes up what Emmanuel wrote. And we can go back through this particular chapter, and we will. However, obviously, this, the major, the theme in this small chapter is the gift of being able to start over again, and that is mainly based upon the fact that we reincarnate lifetime after lifetime. And that is a true blessing when we're allowed to come back to the material plane, either on Earth or on a higher level planet. Of course, I think we all know that we are in a transit. Well, enough of us are aware that we're on a transition now to a planet of regeneration. The next level up in planets is a happy one. And that's one that we all should be taking aim at. And of course, when we focus our aim on the good, then we're going to minimize the amount of time we're going to need to get to an incarnation on a happy planet where people live for extended periods of time, because, of course, the atmosphere there is a lot lighter than it is here. It's not this heavily laden atmosphere that needs this physical, very heavy physical body that we have here, because our spiritual body has a lot of impurities in it that need to be removed. So we'll go back to the message. And the second paragraph: repentant wrongdoers, sinners who return to the good, and those who tinkle the crystal of conscience. And tinkle is interesting, goes to during the translation. And what tinkle means is sort of to strike something very lightly. Always think of striking a crystal and making a beautiful sound. And that's what they use, tinkle the crystal of conscience. And of course, that's the key here. Our conscience is always our guide. And that understanding that, hey, we're given this opportunity to start over again, as he calls it, the phrasal verb to start over again, is the joy that we're given. Because reincarnation after reincarnation is a process of perfection. And the only way we continue to perfect ourselves is, of course, given the opportunity, because it's you cannot do that in a particular lifetime. Although some individuals have been able to reach a very high level of perfection in one lifetime. Saul of Tarsus, who turned into St. Paul, went through a catharsis during his lifetime back after Christ had given up his life for us to show us what true love was really about. He persecuted the Christians, the first one to start the persecuting of the Christians, but then came to spread the good news to all those Gentiles. Thank goodness that he did, because we're able to be in this particular position. Another person that we can think of is Allan Kardec is another perfect example, and of course Chico Xavier, the one that psychographed this book, another great example of people that have used a particular incarnation to really advance and purify their spirit. Mother Teresa is another good example. Nelson Mandela, another example. These are people that were always looking to do the good. Of course, our role model and the governor of our planet, Jesus Christ, was the ultimate example of doing the good. Lazarus, and then he writes here, Lazarus was really happy because, of course, he realized that he was getting this opportunity once again. And the other, let's see here, the third paragraph, Lazarus could not have been happy only because he was clothed again in the perishable flesh. No, because he was given the chance to start the human experience once again, with new values. On the path of evolution, every time a spirit receives from the divine master, and that spirit is us. Remember, we're a spiritual bodied person first, and I'm sorry, that's really itchy. And then we are here on earth, secondarily, we're the physical bodied person. We return to earth so we can undo the strong bonds to relieving ourselves from anguish and regret and fear. The sensation Lazarus felt in the tomb was a tight cloth wrapped around his face. Oh my goodness, I have to apologize. Not quite sure why. That nose is just bothering the heck out of me. Anyway, and Jesus exclaimed to the world, "Unbind him and let him go." And as Emmanuel writes, it's marked with a lot of profound beauty because people's lives are invaluable because Christ allows them to unbind themselves from their criminal links with the past, allowing them to return once again to the fountains of human life. And I love that analogy, to be born again here on earth, the fountains of human life, because we can make our life a fountain that blossoms the good. If we concentrate ourselves, we can rebuild and sanctify the ties for our spiritual destiny by means of the supreme gift of starting all over again. And one thing we didn't mention was that each night we're when we rest ourselves and go to sleep, and then we rise again in the morning, it's a new day. We are able to start over again. And as I believe St. Paul talked about the fact that each night we practice for dying, because we go to sleep and our physical body basically is inactive, and our spiritual body, of course, is still active because it doesn't need a whole lot of rest. It's there and ready to go. And that's why we talk in Spiritism, we talk about using that time while your physical body is resting and rehabilitating itself. And hopefully your spirit mentors are revitalizing you, helping you heal your physical body. You can have your spiritual body be taken to the afterlife and used for education, used for reparation with somebody that you may have had a difficulty with, used to help you heal, used to help you learn something, be it a new language, something in science that you need help with. It's left to your imagination. what you do with it. Maybe an art project, who knows? But this whole idea of rebuilding and sanctifying the ties for our spiritual destiny using this opportunity. Now, I wanted to recommend, there's a chapter in the Good News, chapter 14. Of course, we all know, unfortunately, that the book Good News is not available in English as of yet. However, I think all of the chapters have been released through the Spiritist magazine, and chapter 14 is recorded in issue number 40. And Vanessa and Saloni did a Kardec radio morning prayer back in June, I believe it was June 19th, on the What's Up, or you can find it on the Kardec radio app. It's called Reincarnation for Renewal, and it talks about chapter 14, which the apostles were questioning and murmuring within themselves about Nicodemus, what Christ said to Nicodemus about being reborn again, and the fact that Nicodemus didn't understand it. In fact, that was the New Testament passage that was under the previous chapter 111, about you're a teacher and you don't understand this concept of reincarnation. And in this message, Vanessa talks about the process of perfection, reaching perfection. It's only achieved, as Christ told the apostles, alongside the rough roads, because he used the analogy of a tree, how a tree grows, and when it's pruned and cut back to almost nothing, it still can come back to life. So we must go through this cycle of death and rebirth. And in each one of these reincarnations, our goal is to learn not to be attached to anything on this material plane. But it is difficult, because the material plane is so heavy here on Earth, and you can get attached to a profession. You could get attached to your own personality, to the circumstances that you live in, maybe family ties. These are all things, possessions that you may have, money that you may have, and the whole idea is not to be attached to those things, because you need to use God's love to find the conditions that enhance your necessary changes in a particular lifetime. We all have, well, I shouldn't say we all, but most of us have a reincarnation plan, and we look at that reincarnation plan to, I got Stefan asked a question, what is the original language? The original language, well, this was written in Portuguese. This particular, the Living Spring series, which The Way, the Truth, and the Life is a original series. Now, if you're talking about the Good News, again, Humberto de Campos was the spirit author for the Good News, and also by Chico was the medium. And that, again, was in Portuguese. So it is available, the Good News is available in Portuguese, and it's also available in Spanish. Let's see. Oh, okay. And so reincarnation was a great quote that Vanessa had in her talk about reincarnation for renewal, and that reincarnation should promote transformation. And if it does not, then guess what? We're going to have to repeat again. And that's why it's so important to take the best advantage you possibly can of each incarnation. And one of the things that she mentioned in her talk was to question whether we're using this particular incarnation to the best of our abilities. And that's a key. We probably should be asking that question each day of our lives. Have we spent this particular day? And St. Augustine talked about each day at the end when we've getting ready to sleep, to basically examine what we've done during the day, what's on the plus side and what's on the minus side, because obviously we haven't reached that level of perfection yet. And we're going to have some pluses and we're going to have some minuses. And hopefully we limit the minuses through effort and repetition. There is, let me see, there was one other thing. That's it. One of the things I wanted to also mention was this book that Who's Afraid of Death by Richard Simonetti. And it's available from various places. Hopefully we're going to have it available as an audio book on Kardec Radio soon. But in that, the last message or last chapter in the book, it's called Passport. And the last sentence in the book says, when it was a quote, it's an old proverb. It says, when you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. And I think it kind of encapsulates how we must take the opportunity we're given to have the chance to start over again each new lifetime. And of course, we talked about each day being a new day to start over again. And that's just on a smaller scale. But we should use that smaller scale of each day to get us in gear so that when we do go back to our home in the spirit world, we are excited and geared up to be able to go back again and use this opportunity to grow our goodness and not be attached to anything in the material plane. Okay, my good friends, we will close the comments on this particular chapter, and we'll say a little prayer. Let us take a deep breath in and exhale. And let us thank dear Mother, Father, God for allowing us to be here for this particular session. Let us also acknowledge our governor of the planet, Jesus, Mother Mary, and all the spirits that be here with us today and always around us. As Spiritism tells us, we're never alone. We thank you for your guidance and protection today during this particular meeting. And we know at this particular time in the regeneration of the earth that we have the temperatures rising across the planet. The fires are raging in different parts of the world. The sea level is increasing. Floods are happening. Earthquakes are happening. We have the virus. And these are all wake-up calls for us to recognize the beauty of nature, and we must treat it with love and respect. We are part of the issue, and we need to correct our way of living to be more knowledgeable about the earth. to treat it as the wonderful, alive item that it is. We ask that your wonderful and infinite love and healing energy be spread through our families, through our neighborhood, our friends, our town and city and state, and across America. And of course, America, just like the rest of the world, must be infused with love and healing energy, especially those that are in the hospitals suffering with this virus, and of course, others with chronic illnesses and acute injuries, people in nursing homes, people in prisons, refugees, people that are homeless, people that are hungry. We must expand our humanity and encompass all people in the way we think, in the way we act, and the way we talk. Talk is one thing, but acting is another. Dear God, give us the strength and the willpower and the motivation to help all. We once again thank you for your guidance and protection, and ask permission to close this little prayer, and so be it. Well, thank you once again, my friends, for being here with me, or us, I should say, because there's always spirits around during this time. And we look forward to possibly seeing you again at 4 o'clock next Thursday afternoon. Take care, and my love and blessings to all.